The Great Assembly had convened for the third time in galactic history. Representatives from 743 species gathered in the crystalline halls of the Nexus Station, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, hums, telepathic pulses, and chemical releases that the universal translators worked tirelessly to decode. At the center of the vast amphitheater sat the Arbiters, ancient beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Their role was simple: to maintain the cosmic order, to ensure that no single species grew too ambitious, too dangerous to the delicate balance that kept the galaxy stable. Among the assembled delegates, the human representative sat quietly. Ambassador Reed was unremarkable by galactic standards. No chitinous armor, no energy-based form, no psychic emanations. Just flesh and bone wrapped in simple diplomatic attire. The other species had grown accustomed to humanity's presence. Over the past century since first contact, though many still viewed them as newcomers barely worthy of serious consideration. The session began with the Vorthon delegate, a being of pure energy crackling within a containment field. The matter before us today concerns the expansion rates of various species. Several have exceeded the agreed-upon territorial limits. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The collective of worlds had established these boundaries long ago to prevent conflicts and resource wars. Every species was allocated specific regions based on their population, technological advancement, and contribution to galactic stability. The lead arbiter's voice resonated through every mind present. The Zephyrian Empire has expanded beyond their designated sectors by 12%. The Crystalline Consortium has established mining operations in neutral zones. And, the ancient being paused, humanity has exceeded their allocated space by 370%. The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Species that communicated through bioluminescence flashed angry patterns. Those with vocal cords shrieked protests. The telepathic races sent waves of indignation that made the translators spark and smoke. Ambassador Reed remained seated, calm, waiting. The arbiter continued once order was restored. Furthermore, human colonies have been detected in 47 systems previously thought uninhabitable. They have developed technologies that allow survival in environments that would destroy most other species. A delegate from the Aquatic Federation rose, water cascading from its ceremonial robes. This is unacceptable. Humans are a single-world species. They should be grateful for the generous allocation they received. 20 systems is more than adequate for their needs. They consume resources at an alarming rate, added the hive mind representative, its 1,000 eyes blinking in synchronized disapproval. Their industrial output threatens the established economic balance. The accusations continued for hours. Humanity was too aggressive, too adaptable, too numerous. They bred too quickly, explored too recklessly, innovated too rapidly. They had somehow managed to establish trade routes that bypassed traditional galactic commerce networks, creating unprecedented economic prosperity in regions that had stagnated for millennia. Finally, the lead arbiter addressed the human delegate directly. Ambassador Reed, how do you respond to these charges? Reed stood slowly, the simple movement, somehow commanding attention from the entire assembly. When he spoke, his voice was steady, carrying easily through the vast space. We have broken no laws, he said. We have harmed no species that did not first threaten us. We have honored every treaty, every agreement, every promise made to this body. But you have exceeded your allocated expansion by settling worlds you deemed worthless, Reed interrupted, the first sign of emotion creeping into his voice. We asked for permission to explore dead systems, toxic planets, radiation-soaked asteroids. You laughed. You said such places were uninhabitable, useless. You gladly gave us claim to what you considered garbage. The assembly fell silent. We took your unwanted worlds and made them home. We built cities in acid rain and farms in soil that would poison most of your species. We turned asteroid fields into manufacturing centers and gas giants into fuel stations. We didn't take anything from you. We took what you threw away and made it into something beautiful. The Vorthon delegate flickered with agitation. This was not the intent of those agreements. Perhaps, Reed acknowledged, but it was the letter of them, and now you want to change the rules because we succeeded where you expected us to fail. The lead arbiter leaned forward. The concern is not your success, but the threat it represents to galactic stability. Your growth rate suggests that within 500 years, human space will encompass nearly half the galaxy. Reed smiled, and somehow that expression was more unsettling than any threat would have been. Only half? The chamber erupted again, but Reed raised his hand, and impossibly, silence fell. You want to limit us because you fear us, but your fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding. You think we want to conquer you, to dominate you, to rule over you. You project your own limitations, your own fears onto us. He walked toward the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. We don't want your worlds. We don't need your resources. We don't desire your subjects or your territories. We want to grow, to explore, to build, to become something greater than we are. And we will do it with or without your permission. The ambassador reached into his diplomatic case and withdrew a simple data pad. This contains the coordinates of every human colony, every outpost, every settlement in the galaxy. It also contains our formal withdrawal from the Galactic Collective. The shockwave of disbelief that swept through the assembly was almost physical. You cannot simply leave, the arbiter protested. The collective maintains order. Without it, there is chaos. The collective maintains stagnation, Reed replied. For 10,000 years you have carved up the galaxy like a meal, giving each species their portion and telling them to be satisfied. But we hunger for more than you are willing to feed us. He placed the datapad on the central podium. We hereby renounce all claims granted to us by this body. We surrender all territories allocated by your authority. From this moment forward, humanity claims only what we can take and hold through our own strength and will. The ambassador turned to leave, then paused. We thank you for teaching us that we were thinking too small. As Reed walked toward the exit, the vast assembly watched in stunned silence. No species had ever voluntarily left the collective. The very concept was unthinkable. Behind him, the delegates began to realize the implications. Without the collective's restrictions, without the carefully maintained balance of power, humanity would be free to expand as far and as fast as their abilities allowed. The weak protections that kept aggressive species in check would no longer apply to them. The universe held its breath as the human ambassador reached the chamber doors. He paused one final time, turning back to address the assembly. We will remember our friends, we will not forget our enemies. And to those who choose neutrality, Reed smiled again, and this time there was something almost predatory in the expression. We will see you among the stars. The doors closed behind him with a soft whisper, but the sound seemed to echo through every mind in the chamber like the closing of a tomb. In the silence that followed, 742 species began to understand that they had just witnessed the end of an age. The universe had been divided and subdivided for so long that they had forgotten what it meant for a species to be truly free. Now they would remember. And somewhere in the depths of space, on worlds of ice and fire, in the vacuum between stars, and the hearts of dying suns, humanity continued its inexorable expansion into the infinite dark, no longer bound by the fears and limitations of others. The universe observed in silence as humanity departed from the table they had been invited to share, choosing instead to claim the entire feast for themselves.